So before we begin then, let us all bring our palms together in veneration of the Perfect One, reminding ourselves that this is not a mere veneration to an individual, but this is our individual pledge of allegiance to walk the path to nobility, to achieve a state of fearlessness and to achieve a state of shamelessness, to get to a point where we are all free from the burden of our own vexation. This is what we are here for. This is our purpose. Let us ensure that every ounce of energy that we exert today accounts to that and amounts to that and helps us on our path to liberation. With that determination in mind, I invite you all to take this moment to chant the Namaskara with myself. And of course, before we observe the precepts, I will be making an invitation to our revered monk who has come here today to precept you. But let's chant with the Namaskara to commence with today's proceedings. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Well, you're all spoiled for choice today because there's 4 of us. And without further ado, I would like to most respectfully invite a very familiar face. You know the drill at Rajagiriya. If you transport the Swami Nuhanses, then you have to end up becoming a Swami Nuhanse. Any volunteer drivers? So without any further ado, I would most respectfully invite the most venerable Dharnagama Jivaka Dhamma Swami Nuhanse, who used to be Mr. Jayasiri, but you know what we did with him? We killed the bugger. He is now the most venerable. He was almost venerable, but now he's most venerable. So please bring your palms together to invite him onto the stage, and he will precept you as well as share with you his personal story of liberation, the journey that he has taken to get to the stage that he is today, and hopefully those words will inspire you. One of the promises you have to make when you become an anagarika is the promise to break all your comfort zones. You cannot settle for what is comfortable anymore. So you can imagine what it must be for us as monks then. Once you become a monk, there is nothing you cannot do, except for the unmeritorious deeds. That doesn't make the challenge any less challenging. But there is no challenge we fear. Because fear is a making of our own minds. Hesitation is a making of our own minds. Self-doubt, these are all makings of our own mind. When we invite our young monks or our newly ordained monks to come forward and to speak to a new audience, they cannot say no. Because that is what we have learnt. When a teacher asks, no is not an answer. I don't know is okay. I don't know, that's fine. But no, can't say no. But there are lots of things, I think, in your life still, which you will be happy to say no to. Because there are comfort zones. Zones that steal your comfort. You leave your comfort there. These are the challenges, ladies and gentlemen. These are extensions of your own defilements. Like I said once, the day that you know that you're right on track to becoming an arahant is if you accept my challenge to come up on stage and jump around like a little bunny. The day you're prepared to do that, no one's going to close their eyes, they're all going to keep staring at you. But you have to be able to come forward. Hold your fingers up like this. Pretend that you're a rabbit and hop around until I say stop. It's not going to be easy because you'll have many things to worry about. The least of all will be, what would people think of me? I'm an adult, you think. I'm a lady. What would people think of me? I'm a respectable person. I'm a teacher. I'm a certain someone in society. I'm a director. I'm a company leader. I'm boss. Right? What would people think of me? I'm the mother. My children are here. What would they think of me? These will be things that will worry you. These are all extensions of your self. This is why when you become an anagarika, you must be prepared to break free and out of all of your comfort zones. Meaning when the teacher calls, you answer. I know how I have grown in this asana. There have been instances where there were things that I was not comfortable doing myself. But Guru Handra made sure that I came out of all of them. It was his way or the highway, not my way or the highway. We surrender ourselves at the feet of our teachers. To surrender is not a mere word. It's not just, okay, I surrender. That's nothing. To drop your weapon when it feels like there's no way out of this alive, that is not surrendering. That is you realizing you have no other choice. But this is a voluntary act. It's a voluntary act. If you wish to get to Nibbāna, then there cannot be things that you like to do and things that you don't like to do, because like has to go out the window. What remains when like goes out the window, when your wantings go out the window, when your desires go out the window, is your pure consciousness. Right now you have not achieved pure consciousness because there are things that you like and things therefore that you don't like. Don't you still have a list of likes and dislikes? That is the problem. So I don't know is okay. Now, when we choose our Anagarika Mahathas to drive the Swamin Mahansis to Rajagiriya, we don't always check whether their mother tongue is English. That's not a requirement. As long as they can drive safely and they're committed to the meritorious deed and they take what they're doing seriously, that'll do for us. So in the past you have heard from Swamin Mahansis who have been very, very fluent when they come up and talk to you. And then there have been others who have not been so. But they know that if they say yes to do this role, then eventually they'll have to be on stage and talk to you. That much they know. So knowing that, they volunteer. Knowing that there's going to be a comfort zone that they have to break out of. These are the makings of arahants, ladies and gentlemen. That's what I mean. These are the makings of arahants. Arahanthood is actually not hard to achieve. It's the journey that's the most arduous. The result is very simple to achieve, but the journey is incredibly difficult. That's what tests you. That's what pushes you. That's what breaks your bones and your limbs. And then you have to come back together again. These are the challenging parts. Once you have fulfilled that journey, the destination awaits. That's it. Which one was more difficult? Getting out of the rocket and stepping on the moon, or getting the rocket to the moon? Which one do you think was the more difficult one? Well, there you go. Lift off safely. That's incredibly difficult. They take years trying to master that. Training the astronauts so that they know how to survive on the moon, in outer space. That takes years to master. But then once they're on the moon and the rocket is up there, it has touched down onto the surface, and now all they have to do is open the door and step foot, and then say something like, it's one small step for man, but a giant leap for mankind. That's the easy part. But picking the right person for the job, training themselves, gearing up for that, preparing to take all those challenges, leaving behind all your family, and preparing to face a bold and adventurous journey where no man has ventured before. These are the makings of fearlessness. So, that's what I say. At our monastery, we take you, we shake you, we break you, and then we make you. You've got to let us do that. As my teachers have done with me, they took me, they shook me, they broke me, and now they're making me. One day I will be made. Once I'm made, I will be unbreakable. The invitation is always for all of you to walk that path. That is why I always take this opportunity to bring people who have gone forth, individuals who have been amongst you, who have worked with you, who have been with you, who have talked with you, people who you can relate to. See, when you met me, I was already a monk, wasn't I? You've not seen me in a pair of trousers. You've not seen me in a sarong. You've not seen me as an anagarika. In fact, you've not seen me as a layman. Sometimes you might think Swami Nuhansi was born like this. So sometimes it might be difficult for you to relate to me because you've never seen me in another guise. This is how we've always had it. But when we bring our anagarikas and they spend time with you and they talk with you, they share in your experience, they are part of the community, they address your concerns, they help put you at ease, they comfort you, they answer your queries, and they talk to the Swami Nuhansi on your behalf. They are sometimes the messengers. We try not to shoot them. Some of the messages that they bring to us. I'm just jesting. But then you can relate to them better. I mean, I wish we could bring more anagarikas here, to be honest. I would really like to do that from time to time at least, to bring a few anagarikas here and let you be with them, spend some time with them. Because there you can relate to. Them you can relate to better than you can perhaps relate to me. The gents here can probably relate better to our anagarikas. So that's why they come dressed with the anagarika uniform, with the anagarika badge, so you know that they are these anagarikas. I want you to talk to them. Actually, my invitation to you is spend more time with them than you do with me. You get 3 hours with me. What more do you want? At the end of these sermons, go and spend some time talking with them. Ask them what their story is. Ask them what inspired them to become an anagarika. Because that is your next step. This is 2 steps away. When you're at the monastery, go talk to them. Have a chat. Ask them what it's like being an anagarika. Ask them how they managed to overcome the challenges that they had to face when they chose this path. Because if I give you an answer, you'll think, well, of course Swami Nuhansi is going to say that. Of course, Swami Wahanse is going to say, why are you bound to your families, why don't you come to the sasana? But these are the men who have to go through all this. These are the men who have to leave their wives behind, or have to convince their wives. These are the ladies who have to convince their husbands. These are the mothers and the fathers who have to convince their children, or the children who have to convince their parents. The challenges that you are going through right now. So that is one of the key reasons why we bring our Anagarika Mahatmas here, and we don't just hire a taxi to get here. Because I want you to spend time with them, talk to them, find out about them. Find out what they like about this asana. Find out their challenges as well, ask them. What are your tough times? How do you face those difficult times? Then you might have certain fears about coming to this asana. What if this happens? What if that happens? What if I'm reminded about home? Then what do I do? Ask them. I'm not reminded about home now. But they may be going through those challenges. What if I'm reminded about my parents? What do I do then? What if there's something I really like to eat? But now you have to survive on what devotees give you. Then what do? Do you get time out to go out and eat something and come back to the monastery? Ask them how they face those challenges. So they're here not just to bring Swami Wahanse here, they're here for you to mingle with, get to know. Use them. Make use of them. So that's why I like to create this platform for when they go forth and become monks, just to give you living, breathing evidence that it is possible to jump from this to that and from that to this. Because then you have a role model. You can see a journey. Someone you can relate to. And that is why today I brought with me Jivaka Dhammahandru. He shared a little bit of his life with you. These are people who have really lived the good life, the so-called good life. I have to say the so-called good life, you don't mind me saying that, right? Because it is now he has begun to live the good life. It would be wrong for me to say that he used to live the good life. If that was so, then why did he come to the sasana? Yeah? But he's lived the so-called good life. Is his wife here by any chance? No? So she's a Sila Vesi, which explains why she's not here. She's at the monastery today. A doctor by profession, and they're both in the medical field, but got to the Dhamma and realized this is the real medicine. Medicine for the soul. And so they built up a business by that point, 14 long years in the industry. These are people who've had really sharp direction in life and good association even when they were lay individuals. Good guidance, good association, and therefore they built up a very successful lay life. But at some point they realized that there was no end to that journey. One after the other, after the other, after the other. It was just a fool's paradise. They realized that happiness is not the same thing as pleasure. Which one of these two things can money buy? Happiness or pleasure? Actually, it can't buy either. It can buy you things. It can buy material things, but it can't buy you either happiness, or it can buy you neither happiness nor pleasure. Happiness is your state of mind when you don't have any expectations. Pleasure is a state of mind when you vex about something and then relieve from that vexation. It's not the object that brings you that. So actually these objects bring you nothing at all. But it takes a great mind to understand that. But that is what the Dhamma is for. So you've seen a slice of what the sasana is today, and I want you to take inspiration from that. If there are people among you who are considering perhaps one day the life of an anagarika, a sravaka, sravika, or an Vesi, the sasana is always available, ladies and gentlemen, to accept you and give you a new birth, a new life. Remember, you're not too old until you think you are. You're never too old until you think you are. But the day you think, now I'm too old, then it doesn't matter whether you're 20 or you're 60 or you're 80, you're old. They say age is just a number. We like to say that, don't we? Especially after you're 40. Age is just a number. Actually, age is just a mental concept. Your bodies might have an age, but your minds don't. Each chitta is born only in this moment. Therefore, each chitta has every chance that the previous chitta had and the one after this will have. At every moment you are born anew. You are born fresh. You are brand new, with every opportunity to achieve anything and everything you want in life. I just want that anything and everything you want in life to be Nibbāna. That is what we are here for. So, whenever you hear from individuals like himself, ask yourself, when is the day that I can take the next step? It doesn't have to be today, because that would be foolish for me to demand that of you. But it doesn't have to be today, but I want it to be someday for all of you. Even if it's not in this lifetime, at least resolve for yourself that in my next lifetime, in my next life after this, I will devote myself to the sasana. Your devotees, I want you to be devoted. It takes another shift of thinking to be that. Right now you'll be saying, you can do it, Swamin Wahansa. Today you'll have 4 Swamin Wahanses to whom you can say that. As you offer them some alms, right? A word of encouragement. I can hear you thinking that. You can do it, Swamin Wahansa. At the same time, I want you to hear Swamin Wahanse thinking, when are you going to do it, madam? And when are you going to do it, sir? They don't give you consolation prizes for cheering the cyclists or the runners. Right? You don't get anything for it. Anything. You don't get a medal, you don't get a trophy, you don't get a cup, you don't even get a certificate. The best cheerer doesn't get a certificate. There's no such medal. The best cheerer, you don't get that. But even if you run and come last, there's still the potential that you can get a consolation prize. Because you tried. So I know, sometimes I just rant on about this. And I know that for some of you, maybe this is good, but it's coming too late. Perhaps if we had met 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, perhaps things would have been very different for you. And I can only apologize for not having met before. What else can I say? I'm sorry that we didn't meet 20 years ago, 30 years ago. But I'm glad that we met somehow. About that I'm very glad. I'm glad because I would have done this to whoever. To whoever I would have had the chance and the opportunity to do it, I would have done it. And among them, you have been the fortunate ones. We have come together. These are the parents to whom I get to speak to. These are the mothers and the fathers to whom I get to speak to. So, take inspiration, make that resolution, make your determination. Nibbana is not for tomorrow, Nibbana is here, Nibbana is now. And that is what I'm going to try to explain to you today. I'll be using examples and metaphors and similes, and let's understand that Nibbana is here and Nibbana is now. The moment you understand that, ladies and gentlemen, your age will not matter to you anymore. I know that it's not fair for me to keep inviting you all to come to the sasana when sometimes we have closed the gates ourselves because you're the wrong side of 40. I'm sorry. Or you're the wrong side of 50 or 55. So, we put the gates. So it is wrong for us to have done that and then to say, why are you not in the sasana, right? That is not my choosing. It's just what we have had to do. So I can only apologize for that. But that does not mean that I have given up the fight for you. So if you're on the wrong side of 40, I will come to that side and I will talk to you. So I want to spend some time today to help you better understand this whole deal called ego. And I'm going to use a couple of examples to help you to grasp this sense of self, this ego that's working inside of you. Let's do a little practical experiment for that. Right. Can you all see these two candles from the back? Everyone? Okay. Which one's lit? Left one or the right one? Back? Which one's lit? The left one or the right one? Okay, good. You can see them both there. Right. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to use these candles to teach you the concept of ego. Who would have thought it would be so simple? So I want you to pay attention and try and make the most of today's talk. So let's light one of these up. It's fighting to stay alive, just like some of you. Should we try and maybe see what Swaminivas is doing, trying to keep it alive? Huh? Thank you. That's why you need noble friends. I can't do it alone, you see? Okay. So now we have a lit candle and an unlit candle. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to blow this candle out. And then I'm going to ask you a few questions. Don't think too hard about these questions. I want you to just take whatever answer comes from within. Okay? Don't overthink this. Just take whatever answer comes to you instinctively. What happened to the flame? This is the first question. What happened to the flame? At the beginning, there was no flame. Then, I lit the flame. Then, I blew it out. So there are three things you can say about that flame, right? First, there was no flame. Which flame wasn't there? Which flame wasn't there? The one that I lit. Yeah, so don't overthink this, right? Just whatever instinctively comes to you, that's what's going to help you to understand your ego. Okay, so don't overanalyze this. Don't put your scientist's hat on, and don't put the Dharmishta Rajagiriya hat on. Just put a Rajagiriya hat on. We'll do the Dharmishta part a bit later. Okay? So, first there was an unlit candle. So there was no flame. Then we lit the candle. Then the flame that wasn't there, the flame that wasn't there got lit. So what wasn't there before it got lit? That flame wasn't there. And then what did we do? We blew out the candle. We blew out the flame. So what got blown out? The flame that was lit and the flame that wasn't there before it was lit. Yes? Let me draw it on the board, just so we're all on the same page here. So these were the 3 steps, weren't they? First there was an unlit candle. So this is the candle. Okay? First there was the unlit candle. Agreed? Then we lit the candle. Then we blew out the candle. Yes? These were the 3 things that you saw me doing. As I did these things with the candle, let's talk about what happened to the flame. What happened at this stage to the flame? What happened to the flame? The flame wasn't there. What wasn't there? The flame, it wasn't there, right? Yeah. So the flame wasn't there. Then what happened at this stage? The flame that wasn't there got there. What shall we say? Came there or is there? Is there? Or was there? Is there? Okay, is there. So the flame that wasn't there, actually we have used the same tense, otherwise it will be confusing. Was there? Okay, was there. Is? Okay. But now, we are at this stage now. So then we blew out the candle. What happened to the flame that is not there? Because this is the present now. Is not, okay. Okay, all right. So we call it isn't there, yeah? Okay? Okay, isn't there, is not there, right, thank you. Got that sorted. Right, so we're talking about the candle, we're talking about the flame. Right, let's make sure we're all on the same page here. First of all, we had an unlit candle. At that point, the flame isn't there. Then we lit the candle. Then the flame that isn't there is there. Then we blew out the candle. Then the flame that is there is no longer there. Right? Right. That's why I say you're crazy. Now let's do one more thing. Let's light it up again. Lit again, right? Let's say lit again. That word has some significance. Because that's how you feel. See, right now, when I pick this lighter up, you don't just say Swaminivas is going to light the candle. What are you going to say? Swaminivas is going to light up the candle again. You have a story about this candle, don't you? Right? Okay, let's light up the candle. Right. So now we've lit the candle up. What happened to the flame? The flame that is not there is there. So as this happened with the candle, this happened with the flame. Now don't you see that both the candle and the flame have a story? They have a story. They're on a journey. They're on a journey. Now, we could even say that this candle, the reason I asked whether you can see a second clock on the second hand on the clock is, if you can time how long I'm going to keep this candle lit before I blow it out. So, can you count a minute and let me know when it's time? Just put your hand up, then I know it's a minute, right? Starting now. Check where the second hand is. When it's a minute, you let me know. Until then, I'll keep talking. So what we're going to do is, In a minute, we are going to blow out the candle. And what's going to happen to the flame? What's going to happen to this flame? I'm talking about this flame. Done. What's going to happen to this flame? It's going to be blown out. So this flame will have lived for how long then? 1 minute. It will have been alive for 1 minute before it dies. So it would have been born a minute ago. It was born a minute ago. It lived for a minute, and then it will die. Done. Okay. See? Now it's a dead flame. Does this resemble something very close to you? We have a birth, then we have life, and then we have the D word we don't like to talk about much. What's the D word? Ooh, don't do. Shh. No one likes to talk about that. Death. You only have death because there was life, right? So this is a dead candle. Well, it's a dead flame. Well, shall we just call it a dead candle? This is a dead candle. Why do you say this is a dead candle? Because it lived for a while. While it was alive, there was a flame alight, wasn't there? And that flame got blown out. And now it's a dead candle. What about this one? This one. It's not born yet. Is that what you're proposing? This is not born yet. Therefore it cannot die. But this is a dead candle. Is there no similarity between these two? Well, is there a flame here? Is there a flame here? No. But the way you feel about these two things are different, aren't they? Now let's get into our feelings, our emotions, our instincts. Okay? Don't give me answers through the Dhamma. That's my role. Let Swami Mahasa be Dharmishta for a second. You can be Dharmishta later. You put all your Dhamma aside now. We are going to start with a clean slate. Okay? What's the difference between these two candles then? One is a dead candle, the other hasn't been born yet. But there's no flame and there's no flame here. You could say one is used, the other is new. But in terms of the flame, so if you focus on the flame of the candle, you'll say that this is dead in relation to the flame, this is a dead candle, and in relation to the flame, this is a candle that has not been born yet. But aren't they similar? In what way are they similar? There's no flame. So this has a story. This one story hasn't begun yet. This is a story that's waiting to begin. So I could begin its story. See, you can see a story waiting to begin. Can't you? As I bring this closer and closer and closer to the wick, can't you see a story waiting to begin? But I shan't. Because I want you to appreciate that in your minds you see a huge difference between these two. It's a very stark difference. Now if you come back to the flame again, let's do that experiment one more time. What did I just do again? I lit the candle again. In fact, don't you feel like there's a difference between this and this? Number 2 and number 4. Because this was the first time, wasn't it? This was the first time. And this is again, meaning we are using a used candle. This is a used candle. This is a new candle. Focus on the flame. So is this a used flame then? But we are using the flame right now. As in, it's alive, it's being used. This is not a new flame, is it? Is it a new flame? How is that a new flame? Because a new flame would be this. If I lit this candle up, that would be a new flame. But how can this be a new flame because it was there before? It's just come back from holiday. See, this is the thing. Don't say that. Don't say born again. That has many connotations. But actually it is born again. This is reincarnation, isn't it? This is the rebirth of the flame. Whereas the flame here has not been born yet. Now I need you to start to think about this through the lens of Dhamma. Now we are going to look at it through the lens of the Dhamma. You have a story about this flame. If I blow it out now, you will tell me that it was the flame that was alive for a duration of time that I have blown out. Meaning it has life. Anything that has life, ladies and gentlemen, also has birth. And it also has death. You also feel that you're going through that experience. Don't you have a date of birth? You think you have a date of birth. Or well, let's say you know you have a date of birth. We'll come to whether it is something you think or you know in a moment. But you think or you know you have a date of birth. And then you have a period of time where you are alive. You live. And then there comes a day, the inevitable, where you're going to die. So someone who was born lived for a certain time and then they died. This sense of existence is a fallacy. It is an illusion. Your sense of existence is an illusion. When I ask you, is it the flame that I just blew out that I'm about to light again? At that point, your mind is jerked. It doesn't compute that. Because you think that the flame's dead, now it's going to be a new flame. But then when I blew it out, you didn't feel the same way about that. Let me repeat that. I just blew out that flame, didn't I? When I light it again, and I ask you, is it the flame that I just blew out I'm going to light up again? Your mind doesn't like that. Your mind doesn't accept that. It says, no, Swami, no, this is going to be a new flame. But when I asked you, was it the flame that was alive that I'm going to blow out? Then you say, of course it is. That's because your mind works in the two extremes. There are things that exist and there are things that don't exist. These are the two polar, these are the extremities. The two polar ends of your spectrum of zeros and ones. That's how our minds think, because it takes this Nitya Sukha Atta view of the world. Your minds always like to think that there is and there isn't. Yes and no. But actually, ladies and gentlemen, that is not what the Buddha taught us. When the Buddha was asked, Venerable Sir, is there a self or is there no self? The Buddha's answer was, you're asking the wrong question. That is not the question to be asking. Cause and effect is a completely different paradigm. It's a completely different premise on which the Buddhist teaching, Buddhist philosophy has been constructed. Your sense of the world as things that exist and things that don't exist, ladies and gentlemen, is the problem that you have with things. See, whenever you think about something, there's a preferred state that you have, either for it to be there or for it to not to be there. Let's take a few examples. Let's take wealth. What would you like about wealth? For it to be there or for it to not be there? For it to be there. You like wealth to be there. Let's take health. Again, you like it to be there, right? So you have a preference, you have a liking for things to be there or things not to be there. Let's say burglars in your community. What about that? Be there or not be there? Not be there. A critical illness. Not to be there. A headache. Not to be there. In your world, you have a very bipolar take on things. You either want it or you don't want it. You either like to have it or you don't like to have it. There's a preference in your world. There's a preference in your world because you see the world as zeros and ones. That is because of your sense of self. And let's see how these two connect with each other. How is it that your sense of self gives rise to this conception of there being entities in this world? This flame is an entity. Not here, but in your mind. Here, it's not an entity, it's pachupan. In other words, it's dependent on causes. Actually, this flame is not here in the present. This flame is here in presence. It doesn't end with a T. It ends with CE. These two words are very different, although it sounds similar. Present is temporal. I'm talking about presence, not present. This flame is a light because causes are in presence. When you think that this flame is in the present, which is this, if you think that this flame is in the present, now the flame was in the past. What am I going to do now? Bring the flame in the future. Can't you see the future flame in your mind right now? See, the closer I bring this, the more it comes to the forefront of your mind. The further I take this back, you see, like, no, there's no chance of that happening. See, now you have a present, you have a past, and you have a future. That's now become temporal, meaning measured in the dimension of time. Try and understand this. I'm actually teaching you to look at the world from a perspective you may never have looked at the world before. And that is why this can sometimes be a little bit challenging. But it's not impossible. We have all done that. We have all begun to see the world in this way. If I can do it, who else can do it? Of course you can do it. I'm not a wizard, I'm not a magician, I'm a very average person. If I can do it, you can do it as well. All I'm trying to do is to get you to realize that you have a sense of self and to capture that, to be able to see it in broad daylight and realize, this is what Swaminathan is talking about. Your sense of self, your ego. Because it is your ego that gets you to see this. Most people think that ego is about being big-headed. That's why we normally use that word, right? Oh, that guy, he's got such an ego. Don't we know to say that? He's got an ego the size of a house. Don't we normally say things like that? He's so egotistical. We think of ego in that way. Actually, that is only one flavor of ego. That's only one disease or one symptom of ego, rather. If ego is the disease, there is only one symptom. This measuring each other. Measuring each other. See, this flame is lit. and this flame is not. Now you can measure this. To measure, two things have to exist. I have a few more examples, we'll talk about them. Let's go one step at a time. I don't know whether I'm using the perfect words to explain this, so you'll have to bear with me. This is my audience. So I'm learning to find the right words to get this message across. You have to play with me. Okay? Because at the monastery, it's much simpler to do this. Because they get to hear it day in, day out, 24/7. They live it, they experience it, they talk about it around the clock. But here, we get this 1 or 2 hours in which I have to explain this concept to you. I don't know whether these are the right words, and maybe in the future sermons I'll be honing these words and making sure that we pick the right words. But in the meantime, I want you to play along with me. Let's see whether we can make this happen for you. But I'm having to explain something to you which actually cannot be explained with words, which is the trickiest part of all this, because this idea cannot be encapsulated into words. Anicca, dukkha and anatta is not anicca, dukkha and anatta. They're just words that have been given to an understanding. Right, fair enough. Let's come back here. You can compare these two things, can't you? See? You compare these two things and say, one is different to the other. You might even say one is better than the other. Because you have a lit flame and you have an unlit flame. Actually, the problem that you have is not that these two are compared. The problem that you have is you think that there are things here that can be compared. Now I know that didn't make a lot of sense. It's okay. It's okay. I understand that. I understand that some of these things don't make a whole lot of sense, but it will happen eventually. Just let the let information flow through your mind, right? Just let me throw a few things at you, and at some point these pieces are just going to click. Okay? So that's why I say just bear with me. See, you can compare these two things. One is a lit flame and the other isn't. The reason that you can compare these two things is because in your mind, these have become entities. Only entities can be compared. Meaning you can put one on top of the other and then say that either they match or they don't match. That's when you give a result of your comparison. To be able to come up with that result, you have to be able to compare. If you see that these two candles are actually not candles at all, if you can see that these flames are not flames at all, and that each instance is as unique as the next, then you can't even compare this candle with this, let alone with another. Let me put it this way. This candle is lit right now, right? How about now? And now? And now? Has it remained in the same state? Now you're confused. Has this flame and this candle remained a candle and a flame from the first time I asked you to now, this moment, right? Is it the same candle? And is it the same flame? No. Is it a different candle and a different flame? See, you can't even answer that, because for there to be something different, there has to be something same. When do you say that something's different? When they're not the same. That's when you say two things are different. When the two things are not the same, you say two things are different. What if you couldn't compare like that? The whole premise of same or similar and different, or same and different, that whole concept, ladies and gentlemen, is based on the existence of entities. It's only when you see the world as entities can you then compare two things and say they're either the same or they're different. In your mind, if you ignore the Dhamma for a second, in your mind, let's go back to when you're just right before you started listening to any of this Dhamma, Anicca, Dukkha, Anatta, let's go way before that. If you were to light up a candle and then come back 10 minutes later, you will, without any doubt, without a shadow of a doubt, you will say, this candle has been lit for 10 long minutes. Will you have any doubt about that? No. You would not have had any doubt about it. With absolute confidence, you would have said, this candle has been lit for the last 10 minutes. Meaning it's the same candle. The same candle has been alive for the last 10 minutes. How can it be the same candle? This is not a rhetorical question. It can be the same candle only because in your mind you see this as the same candle that was lit for the last 10 minutes. See, I can leave this like this until the end of the sermon, and you might share when you go back home, what did Swami Nansi do? Someone asks. He lit up the candle at the start of the sermon and he left it alive till the end. Meaning the same candle. Now, this is going to get shorter. Right? As the wax gets burnt up, it's going to get shorter. What's going to get shorter? This candle is going to get shorter. Meaning, when you say shorter, what does that mean? What are you doing again? Comparing. So, because you don't say, you have this in the past which was taller, and then during the window of observation, it got consumed, and now it's become shorter. Now it's shorter. So what happened to this object? It changed. Right? That's why people talk about impermanence. This is the thing. That's why people talk about impermanence. See, of course, this candle was tall, and then we burnt it, and now it's short, or rather shorter, or not as tall. Meaning this candle is impermanent. See, you cannot talk about impermanence once you begin to understand this concept that I'm trying to share with you. The truth is, nothing is impermanent. Because nothing exists to be impermanent. Right, this candle is lit. Okay, what can you tell me about this flame? It's impermanent, right? I mean, it's a classic example, isn't it? To teach impermanence. Like the flame of the candle blows out. In the same way, your lives will one day come to an end. It's a perfect simile, is it not? You see it everywhere, in books and scriptures and all sorts. Talks, people talk about this all the time. Just like a candle is blown out, in the same manner, your life will eventually come to an end. So be careful. What that means is, the flame that got blown out was the flame that I lit. It is only then can you say that the flame was impermanent. If you have a story, now you have impermanence. See, first it was unlit. Was the unlit candle permanent or impermanent? Now let's go with the traditional idea of impermanence. Okay? So, because if people talk about impermanence, that means we think that things are permanent, right? That's why apparently the Buddha came and taught us about impermanence. So we've always thought that things are permanent, okay? So, first of all, there was an unlit candle. Was that candle permanent or impermanent? Impermanent. How do we know? Because we could light it. We could light it. Now here's the thing. If we lit the candle and we used that to evidence impermanence, what is it that we lit? Let me ask you again. We use the candle example or the candle simile to talk about impermanence. Okay? Right. Let's just assume that impermanence is actually there. That's the whole concept of Buddhist philosophy, impermanence. Right? So if we are going to use a candle now to explain this concept of impermanence, there was an unlit candle to begin with. What did we do with the unlit candle? We lit it. What is it that we lit? The unlit candle. Therefore we say that the unlit candle is impermanent. Okay? So then this unlit candle is now lit. So what did we do with the lit candle? We blew it out. So is the lit candle permanent? No, that is also impermanent, meaning we blew out the lit candle. So therefore the lit candle is also impermanent, because we've established already that the unlit candle was impermanent. That's how we managed to light it. And then the lit candle is also impermanent. That's how we were able to blow it out. Okay, then what happened to the blown out candle? Is that permanent? No, that's also apparently impermanent. How do we know? Because we lit it up again. Yeah? So we're talking about the same candle here. You see, we're talking about the same candle. So the candle is unlit, lit, blown out, or rather unlit, and then lit again. So we can see that the candle has constantly shown signs of impermanence. What has been impermanent? What has been impermanent? The candle has been impermanent. Right? So if the candle has been impermanent, what about the candle? Think about it for a second. These are the states of the candle, aren't they? Forgive me if I'm not using the right terminology or the right words to express this, right? This is where language fails me. I have an idea that I want to get across to you. I have a dream that I want to get across to you. But words fail me. So bear with me, we'll keep trying. It'll work, but just let's work on this together. These are the states of a candle, aren't they? So a candle can only be in how many states? See, now we have a problem. It can be in the state of unlit, lit, because blown out is not the same as unlit, is it? Come on. A moment ago you told me that there's a difference between these two candles. One is unlit, the other is blown out. So how many states can a candle be in? So far we've found out 3. What about the next one? Lit again. So now we found a 4th state a candle can be in. Because that's not the same as lit for the first time. We call that the maiden lighting. Not the very first of something. Doesn't that feel special? Like when we did the first 100 sermons. Wasn't that our maiden century? Didn't that feel special to you? Like when we do the next 100, it's not going to feel as special. So, I should invest less time and less energy in the next 100 because you're not going to celebrate it as much. But the first 100, you were so excited about. That's the first 100. Just like this. Because there are lit candles and then there are lit again candles. Aren't there? So then you have 4 stages of a candle. What about once we blow it out now? That's not blown out for the first time. That is not blown out for the first time. Now if I light this and blow this out, then you could say that this is blown out for the first time. But this is not blown out for the first time. That's just another blowing out. Whereas when we blow this out, that's going to be the very first blowing out of this candle. It's a very special blowing out. Whereas this is not. Now, it's funny when I say it like this, right? And you know that, we are taking this in a very casual way, but doesn't your mind interpret the world in that way, though? You honestly tell me, lighting this and lighting this, don't you see that there's something different there? Don't you feel different about it? Isn't that why when you go and buy something, you want to buy something brand new? Versus just out the showroom. It's still different. Let's say someone uses a pen. They've only just scribbled, and they give it to you. Right? And then someone gives you a brand new pen. Don't you feel that there's something different about the two? You have this sense that it's used. The other isn't used. What changed about it? You might say, well, Swaminas, it's used. That is what has changed about it. That's because you have made up a story for it. Meaning you don't live in presence. You live in the present. Ladies and gentlemen, these two things are worlds apart. Open your eyes and try and understand this. Presence is not the same as present. Whenever you talk about present, you automatically create a future and you also create a past. That's why you like brand new things. That's why you don't like second-hand things. If you could afford it, typically you would buy first-hand. People tend to buy second-hand because, well, they say it's more economical, it's more value for money, right? You don't have to spend as much, right? You'll say it's because it's new, things are more expensive. Why is that though? Let's think about that. It's a commonly known fact, right? That when things are new, it has a premium price for the fact that it is new. Means it's not being used before. Is a brand new house the same as the identical house but that has been lived in for a week? A brand new house, let's take a car, keep it simple. A brand new car versus a car that has been driven for 2 days. Okay, not 2 days, 20 miles. Do you have the same feeling about it? No. That's why they say 0 mileage when they advertise something. Why does that feel special to you? Because you live in the present. Meaning, when someone says this car has 0 mileage, in your mind it means it has had no past. You like that. It has had no past. Can I ask you a question? You know it's not a good question coming when I ask like that, right? Something sounds ominous. I have a lady for you I have a lady to offer to you in her hand in marriage. Gents? One is new. The other has only been married for 2 weeks. Just 2 weeks. As good as new. Okay or not okay? You don't want to answer that question. Because you say, I have an answer, Swaminatha, but then that would be very undignified. To even speak out loud that answer seems very indignified because we must not treat human beings like that. You know you must not. Yes, but you can't stop yourself from feeling that. You have the philosophical answer and then you have your own answer. With most questions it's the same. If I ask you this question, do you love all children the same? Of course, Swaminas, I love all children the same. Really? Really? Mothers know the answer to this question. There's the philosophical answer, and then there is my personal answer. If you love all children the same, why must you have your own child? There are plenty of children in orphanages. Why don't you adopt one of them? Or two of them, or three of them, or 100 of them, if all children are the same? If you want to give a child a good future, I ask you, if you want to give a child a good future, good upbringing, right, and help them grow to become good, law-abiding citizens of this great nation, why do you have to make your own child? You don't even have to go through labor. Well, you like it, do you? Then you can just be a surrogate mother, where a mother can offer her womb to another couple. No, that's not what you want. You want your own child. But then that's not the philosophical answer. The philosophical answer is all children are the same. But in practical terms, why is that? That's because you have a story. You cannot be the mother that you idealize. You have an ideal mother in your mind. Now, can I give you... Now, I hope this does not touch a nerve with anyone. I'm just sharing real life stories with people, and I just, take it in the spirit that it is meant, okay? Let's take a family where there's an adopted child. The day that this child learns that the child has been adopted, this child will always live there's always going to be a sense of, I don't know what the word is. Fear or a sense of insecurity, yes, that's a better word, yeah. A sense of insecurity that I might not be loved as much as my parents' natural children or biological children. You have that sense of insecurity. And it's almost impossible to shake it off. But that is because it is true. 9 times out of 10, let's leave the one saint who has the child and they don't feel that way. 9 times out of 10, when you have an adopted child, for a parent, even for parents who have adopted the child, they feel a special sense of connection with their own children than what they might feel with their adopted children. You know that it's not right. It is fact. You know it's not right. And you would never deny that. You would never argue against that fact. You would always talk in favor of that we must not treat children any differently. They should all be the same. My child, adopted child, makes no difference. Child next door makes no difference. In the classroom that my child learns in, every child is the same. You know that is the right answer, but you can't stop yourself from feeling that there is something special about your child. Actually, that might not even be your biological child. It's just the child that you think is your biological child. What if your child got swapped at the hospital and you never got to know about it? It's not common, but can't say that it's never happened. There have been the odd occasion where that has happened, and the child lives with the parents for many years until they realize that actually they got swapped at the hospital. And then they go looking for the actual child, the biological child. But for the duration of that time, that child, you feel, is your own child, and you have this very special sense of connection that you may not share with other children. You know that's not right. You know it's not right. Let me bring in another example. Let's say you've been married to your spouse for 10 years. It doesn't work out, and the two of you split up. Let's say you're the one who, you can't say dumped. Let's say you're the one who wanted separation. right? So now they're separate. 3 months later, you find this other person with another man or woman. So now your spouse is in another relationship. You know it's not right, what you feel, but you can't shake it. You feel like this person who should have been with me is now with another person. You know it's not right. You don't want to be feeling that way, but you can't help yourself from feeling that way. Now, I gave the example where you're the one who wanted separation. What if it was the other person who wanted it? It makes it even worse. Because you feel that they have somehow mistreated you, undermined you, and they have walked out of that relationship. Perhaps, let's say, you committed yourself wholeheartedly to that relationship, and now then to see them with another person, you feel like something that belongs to you is now with somebody else. That is because, again, you see a story. And sometimes you might even hurt inside. You don't like it, but it does. Some people call it jealousy. Now, you know the feeling of jealousy because, let's face it, we've all felt it at some point or the other. We know what jealousy feels like. There cannot be a single human being here who's not experienced jealousy in one way or another. We have all experienced what jealousy is like. And that's when you feel like, this is something I should have had, but someone else has. You can't shake that feeling. Ladies and gentlemen, that is when your ego gets you. That's why I say ego is not necessarily whether something's better than the other, equal or less than the other. It is not necessarily something to do with your pride. Whenever you sense existence, that is your ego playing its dirty tricks on you. See this flame? Let's ask the candle, if the candle could speak, okay? If this candle could speak, who would it say that this flame belonged to? If this candle could speak, who would it say this flame belonged to? To me, right? Now, if I use the flame of that candle to light this candle up, what would this candle feel about this flame? I am the one who lit you up. Right? Now what if this guy goes around talking about its bright flame? How bright its flame is, right? And he goes around sharing his flame with other people. Say, hey, shall I light you up? Would you like me to give you some flame? Right? What might this candle say? You've forgotten your roots. It's fine for you to go and do that, it's okay, but make sure that you tell people that it was I who gave you that in the first place. Citations? There'll be people in the audience who are researchers and scholars and all sorts. Why are citations so important? I mean, it has two elements to it. Citation is also important because then you can reference people who know, right? People who know their field, who know what they're talking about. So you can give some credibility to the work that you have presented when you cite someone. But then there's also another reason there. That is because people want credit for the work that they have done, meaning the work belongs to them. Just like this candle now saying that this flame belongs to it. But do you also think that this is the same flame that's here? Did we take some of that flame? It feels like that, does it not? So, if we were to blow out this candle, what would happen to this candle? Would it also blow out at the same time? But how come? This is the same flame. Should it not also blow out at the same time? If it's the same flame? It's not. You understand that it's not. But even because I showed you how I did this, right? You know, as much as you know that it is not the same flame, you still feel that there was something that this candle got from that candle. Like it owes this candle something. Does it not feel like that? That this candle owes this candle something? So if this candle now walks around saying, look at me, I'm the one who's lighting up the whole world, wouldn't you say that this candle has forgotten its roots? And it has to be grateful? And I say, this is its inheritance from its parent candle. See, now you have a parent candle and you have a child candle. Just like us. Not us. Just like us. See, stories, ladies and gentlemen, these are the stories that you tell yourself. These are all extensions of ego. Let me explain to you why I say that these are all extensions of the ego. It is because you see entities in this world. Say this was an entity, and from this entity was born. That's how you see it. Actually, that is not what really happened. There were causes that were present. Actually, not even present. Okay, we can say present, but now I mean present in the sense of this. Not present in the sense of temporal presence. Present. I mean presence in the sense of absence versus presence. There are two different meanings, right? Present can also be time bound, so future, past and present. And present can also be absent versus present. I'm talking about the second. Absent versus present. That's why I like to use the word presence versus absence. So, why was this flame not lit earlier? Why was the flame not lit earlier? Because the causes were absent. Was it because it was the past? There's a question for you to ponder. Did you understand the question? Okay, hold on. Okay. So this is the present. In the present, this is lit. Okay? This is not lit. When I light this candle, the flame is going to be alight. Okay? In relation to that state, this is now the past, right? In relation to its future, at which point it will be lit. Okay? So meaning, in relation to this is the past, right? Yeah? Okay. So, this candle is not lit right now, right? Is that because it is just still the past? This candle is not lit right now. Is that because it's still the past? Because it is only going to be lit in the present. Well, actually, right now you'd say, it's not the future yet, Swamina, so that's why it's not lit. Because you're only going to light it in the future. Sounds like Greek, doesn't it? And I'm not even learning Greek. I'm learning Spanish. All right, this sounds like Greek. Let's try again one more time. This candle is not lit yet. In a moment, I'm going to light it. I promise you. I'm going to light it in a moment. Okay? What is that moment in relation to the present? The future. Isn't it? So what is this moment in present in relation to that moment? The past. In relation to the moment where this candle is lit, this is the past. Is that why it's not lit yet? Because it's still the past. So then what happens in the past? What are those things that happen in the past, ladies and gentlemen? What things happen in the past? What things happen in the past? Does anything happen in the past? No, everything happens in the... Oh, you think... Not everything. Do things happen in the present? Things happen in the presence of causes. See, this candle is lit right now. It's burning because causes are present, but not temporal present. Present. So when I say present like this, I mean the opposite of absence, okay? When I say present like this, that is temporal presence. Okay? So present, past, future, that's why it's a timeline. When I say like this, I mean this is the opposite of absence. Okay? So we have an agreement. So otherwise I have to keep on telling you which present I'm talking about. What is this? Presence. Presence and present, which is the opposite of absence. This, when I say it's present, now I'm talking about temporal presence. Time, past, future. Okay? Right. So tell me then, this candle is a light. This way or this way? Which way? This way. So why is this candle not a light? Because it's still the past, right? Because in the future it's going to be it's going to be a light, isn't it? Yeah? When is this candle going to be a light? In the future, right? See, Swaminathan is going to bring the future now. But it's only the past still. That's why it's still not a light. Is that so? No. So what has the past and the future got to do with anything? Then what has the present got to do with anything? Nothing. The only thing that has any impact on what you can observe in this world is what? Presence. That is why they call Pachuppanna. See, I love this word Pachuppanna. I use it a lot during my meditation when I contemplate, because Pachuppanna, Pratya is conditions. Conditions. You can use it collectively to mean causes and conditions. Uppanna is what? Born. Born. So then what do you think Pachuppanna means? Born from causes and conditions that are present. Present. In this way, present. So this flame is a light in the past. Was this flame a light in the past? Well, if flames are a light in the past, why is this not a light? Because this is also past in relation to the next moment, which is in which I'm going to light it. Does that make sense? I'm really sorry. I know this sounds really very confusing, but it's not meant to be. I'm trying to get a concept across to you, and this is one of the better examples that I can use, because I can bring it to light. Pardon the pun. I can bring it to light for you easier when I use this. See, this flame is a light, meaning all flames are a light in the present. Is it? If all flames are a light in the present, why is this not? Because this is also in the present. Why is this not a light? Then you say, no, Swaminathan said flames are not a light in the present, flames are a light in the future. You have to light them up first. So in the future, flames will be a light. If only in the future flames are flames going to be a light, then how come this is a light? Because it's not the future yet. This is still the present. No, this present. But it's still a light. Then you say, no, Swaminathan, you see, this was a light. Now it's dead. It was a light. And so flames are a light in the past, Swaminathan. Then how come this one is still a light? This is the present. It's not the past. So then I have to come and ask you the question, when are flames alight? Are they alight in the past, the present, or the future? The answer is none. Actually, it's the wrong question to ask. That's like me asking you, when do you grow older? Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, or Thursdays? When do you grow old? On Mondays. I know Mondays seem longer than the other days of the week. But do you grow old on Mondays or Tuesdays or Wednesdays or Thursdays? That's the wrong question to ask, right? Because time has no relevance. The dimension of time does not have any relevance or significance on anything that goes on in this world. Meaning, time is not natural. Time is not natural. Because natural factors all have an interconnection with each other. The air is natural. The earth is natural. Fire is natural. Water is natural. The sky is natural. The earth beneath your feet is natural. This is all natural. The four great elements are natural, meaning they are interconnected with each other and any one of them has an effect on the others. But time is not natural, it's unnatural. That's why nothing happens in relation to time. Nothing happens in relation to time, ladies and gentlemen. Nothing. But unfortunately, we seem to have the same word to talk about both concepts. See, present, present. It's the same word, but now that I've explained to you that these have very distinct meanings. When I do like this, you know what I'm talking about. When I do like this, you know that I'm talking about something very different to that. But unfortunately, we have the same word. So if I were to give you a talk without making this distinction, you might think that I'm talking about present. So when I say Pachuppana, you're thinking, oh yes, everything is available in the present. No, that's not what I'm doing. I'm not talking about the present. I'm talking about presence. But your mind does not accept that. And that's not the mind's fault. That is what your sense of self does. Your ego does not accept which one? This one? Oh no, the ego thrives on that. When do you want something that you like? Now. You want something? Now, right? So where's that now? Okay, the best way to come up with an answer to this, when do you not want it to come to you? In the future. You don't want it in the future. When do you want it? You want it now. So you're talking about this. I want something and I want something now. That is your ego. Your ego immediately creates the dimension of time, because what is ego after all? It's existence. Ego is your sense of existence. To exist, what must you need? Time. You can only exist in relation to time, can't you? Isn't it? You can only exist in relation to time. There's no other dimension on which you can exist. You can't exist on the dimension of length. You can't exist on the dimension of weight. You can't exist on the dimension of volume. No, your existence is on the dimension of time, because that is why it's called existence. I exist. I have existed and I will exist. All of these concepts are time-bound. That is why whenever you talk about things happening, you talk about things happening in the present. Actually, that's how you feel. And then you talk about things that happen in the past, which is not the present, but a present that was is the past. And the present to come is the future. Isn't it? But they're all presents. Some presents have passed, we call them the past. Some presents, I don't mean those ones you wrap up and give to someone, right? That's another present. Who invented this English language anyway? How can I explain a concept to you? I have to first give a lesson on linguistics. I'm not talking about those presents that we give to people, right? What is the future? Presents that have not yet arrived. What is the past? Presents that have passed. What is the present? What is the present? Presents that are present, that are here now. Isn't it? But the Buddha speaks of none of these. The truth is that none of these are for real. Neither the past, nor the future, nor the present. These are all creations of the mind, ladies and gentlemen. When you talk about present, as in temporal present, although you may not feel it, although you may not know it, it's your mind that creates that sense of it. It's a beautiful instrument, this mind. It's actually quite magical. Your ego does that. Think of now for a second. That's a very weird thing to think about. Swaminathan is not asking you to think about this, that, or any of these objects in the room. Can you think about now for a second? Just think about now. Now. Can you think about now for a second? See? You have a feeling for what that feels like, right? Now. Now. Not now. Now. Right? That feeling, your mind just created it. Your mind just created it. It just fabricated that. An Arahant does not feel that. That's when you know you have become an Arahant. This feeling that you have, think about now again. Now. You have this feeling, right? Now. You're hearing this voice when? Now. You feel the flow beneath your feet when? Now. Right? We are all alive? Now. See that feeling? An Arahant does not have that feeling. Because it's a fabrication of the mind. So what is the past? Nows that have passed. And the future? Nows that are yet to come. That's the future. Well, of course, you can create as many nows as you want. Because it's the mind just producing these nows. But these are all creations of the mind. So present in the horizontal scale, right, temporal scale, present is also a product of presence. Whoa, Swaminathan. Anyone got any paracetamol? I spend my life with in noble association. Right? These things make perfect sense to me. This is not a difficult concept. If it seems a little bit daunting to you, it's only because this is new to you. But don't be disheartened. Right? Don't think that Swaminathan has come today. I don't know, he must have gotten out of the wrong side of the bed or something. Right? And he's just ranting on about this present and now when he blew up a candle as well, and I don't know what he's getting up to. Makes no sense at all. I think he's lost the plot. We have to go tell Guru. This is only, if it's making sense to you already, then wonderful, give yourselves a pat on the back. Right? If it's not making sense to you yet, don't worry. We are getting there. Right? We are all going on this journey together, ladies and gentlemen. We are not going to leave anyone stranded behind. Okay? As long as you do your part, right? You do your merits, and you devote yourself wholeheartedly, at least while you're here, okay? This will make sense to you. So this is a collective journey. We are a community. We're not going to leave any of our brothers or sisters behind. Okay, so I'll go over this 100 times if I have to. I just want you to understand what it is. When we talk about ego, I want you to be able to capture that. You know, it's an eye-opening moment when that happens for you. When you go, get it, that's what ego is. When you have that moment, that epiphany, right? It's a very eye-opening moment for you. Then from that moment on, you can live life as you normally do. But then always be cognizant and aware. There you go. There's that ego. There. There's that ego person trying to do its dirty work on me. You'll be always aware of it. Right now, you may not be aware of your ego. That's the problem. People often ask me, Swaminatha, what am I supposed to do with my ego? Should I kill it? No, don't worry about ego. All you have to do is spot it. Don't kill it. If you spot your ego will not last forever. The other day, I gave this example to one of our Swami Mahansis who asked me, Swaminatha, what should I do with this ego? I said, accept. I always talk to you about acceptance. You know, like a little kid. Like a little kid who's fighting for recognition and acceptance. Like when people who have children, you have had this experience. They draw something and they bring it to you and say, Mommy, 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 see what I've drawn, see what I've drawn. And they want to get your attention, right? If you ignore them, what are they going to do? They might go away, but they're not going to be very happy. And then they'll keep coming back to you. They'll keep pestering you until you give them a bit of your time, acceptance, recognition, right? Your ego is the same. Don't try to chase the fellow away. Realize that it's there. Just realize that it's there. Come to terms with it. Understand that this is ego. See ego through insight. The moment you see ego through insight, that is the end of ego. All it wants is a bit of recognition, acceptance. Accept ego and your ego will flee away. So you don't have to do anything. That's the beauty of it. That's what I say. All you have to do, you're already doing what you have to do. Be here and do what Swami Maharaj asks you to do, right? And do your merits and all that. The rest will happen. Right, now come back to the room. How long has this been alive? For the last few minutes, this fire has been burning, hasn't it? Isn't that what your mind tells you? How does your chitta know that? It was only born in this moment. Now you'll tell me, Swaminatha, isn't that what memory is all about? Because if we didn't have any memory, I wouldn't be able to tell that this flame was alive for the last 10 minutes. You've been talking to us. This is where memory helps to play tricks against you. Memory in itself is not a bad thing. But memory forms a bad association with ego. And when it does, it takes part in creating this story, which if you are not aware that this is what is going on, you become a victim of. Let me explain. This candle is now blown out, right? Do you remember that this candle was lit a moment ago? Just bring that mental image back to the forefront, right? You remember this was lit. This was lit a moment ago, right? And you know that is only a memory. When that memory comes to your mind, and now that memory is the object of your consciousness, When is that happening? Is that in the past? When is that happening? Present or presence? Presence. So when that memory comes to your mind now, are you actually thinking about the flame that was a light some time ago? Or is that memory, that recollection of memory, what you remember, actually that is only produced in this moment, right? I know I'm not doing it justice, but I'll keep trying. When you recall a memory of this flame being lit, or the flame alive from a little while ago, that vipaka, this is the first time in your entire existence that vipaka has come to fruition. Meaning, ladies and gentlemen, your recollection of a certain event is not the event at all. It's not the event at all. It's a mere recollection. And that recollection happened just now. So actually what you're recalling is not a memory of the past. It's presence. As clear as mud, right? When you recall a memory, now, okay, I'll give, let's take another example. You heard that. Can't you hear that again? Not with me doing it. Recall from memory. You can hear that, right? When is that happening? Now, is that what I did or is that you're doing? You're doing. Do it again. And again. See, I only click my fingers once. How come you can recall it 100 times? Because that is not this. If all things are only available in presence, your memories are not actually my actions. Your memories are not memories. They are just memories. This is mana and dhamma. The contact of mind and the dhamma. And that happens at that moment. But here's the thing. When your sense of ego takes over, or your sense of self, when your ego takes over, your ego will give you a very different story. Here's what it will say. What you now remember is what Swami Nibbāna did before, earlier. But those two events are very discrete events. They have nothing to do with each other. They have nothing to do with each other. Meaning, your recollection, your memories have actually nothing to do with the event which you think is what you recall. They have nothing to do with each other. They're very discrete, very independent events. One is mana dhamma, the other is sound and ear. This and your recollection of that are very discrete events. They have no connection to each other. Now you must ask me, well, Swami Nibbāna, but you did this, that's why I don't hear that in my memory. How come? Don't you have that question now? Come on, I'm talking to intelligent people. You must have that question. Aren't you like a bit like me? Always annoying Guru Handru. When I did this, and I asked you to recall, you don't recall that, do you? What do you recall? You recall this, right? So, doesn't that also give you some kind of like proof or evidence with your sense of ego, coupled with your sense of ego, that it is that event that you remember? Now, if you remember that, for example, when I did this, you might say, well, Swaminatha, I can understand now. It's not the event that I remember, it's just a memory. Now, here's the thing. How come you forget things? Or how come you only partly remember things? And how come some memories are faulty? Sometimes, I say one thing, but you remember something else. Right? Someone says Tuesday, you remember Wednesday. I say practice the path, you don't remember practicing the path. You remember path. You don't remember practicing the path. How come our memories are distorted? When you say my memory is distorted, what you are actually saying is, this is a memory of the event. And so it is not a true reflection of the event. Therefore it's distorted. But that's because you're working on the basis that what you're recalling is the actual event, when it is not. See, once again, you're trying to put one on top of the other, comparing. So then your recollection, your memory becomes an entity. The event that happened was an entity. These two entities now you try and put on one another, and the two of them don't match. That's when you say it's a distortion. But actually, there's nothing in this world you can put one on top of the other and say that they match or they don't match, because that is not what things are for. Actually, in other words, this whole universe only exists in presence. The whole concept of comparison relies on present. But present doesn't exist. Only presence does. If there is only presence, what are you going to compare something with? Because all there is presence. To compare, you need one on top of another. Where is that another going to come from? Where is the other going to come from? When is it going to arrive? At what time? If all there is presence, where is this other thing that you're going to compare it with? Is that an applause I hear or what? Let's take another example. Okay. I have these bricks. These two. Okay? They are similar, aren't they? They are similar. Are they the same? Are they the same? No, they're only similar. Now, you say that they are similar but not the same because you can see both at the same time. If I were to hide these two, so this is the one in my left hand, this is the one in my right hand. Okay? Are they the same? They're only similar. Now, in front of your very eyes, I'm going to put this to a side, okay? And I'm going to switch this from my left hand to my right hand. Similar or same to the one I had in my left hand? Once again. Hold on. Okay, now I have one in my left hand, one in my right hand. Similar or same? Similar. Not same, right? Similar. Okay, I'm going to put this to a side. And I'm going to shift what I have in my left hand to my right hand. And you saw me doing it. Similar or same? Same. That's the same. Because you saw me switching it from one hand to the other. Right? That's the same. Whereas this is only similar. So then, I hide these two things. I take it away from sight. Right? These two objects, I take it away from sight. Now you don't know what I'm doing with it. I could be switching them, swapping them, right? I could be removing those parts and putting them back together in different combinations, right? And I could be doing all sorts of things here. Now I bring them back up again. Okay? What I have in my left hand, is it the same object that I had in my left hand? What I have in my right hand, is it the same as what I had in my right hand earlier? Is it the same? You don't know. You can't tell. Right? But they seem similar. Still similar. Yeah? You can't say it's the same thing because you know you can't have two of the thing, of this. You see, for you to say that this is the same as this, it's impossible. In this physical world that we live in, there can only be one of one thing, right? If this is in my left hand, this cannot be anywhere else in this world right now. Can it? No. The best we can have is similar, not same. Yes? That's the best we can have. That's the closest we can come. It can never be the same. But when I hide it, and then I do something with it, and I bring it back up again, now you can't tell. You can't tell whether this is the same, but it still seems similar. Okay. In your mind, when you desire something, when you feel pleasure, you experience a sense of pleasure when your mind seeks something, and at that time the mind is in vexation. And when the mind is presented with the object that it seeks, now the mind relieves itself of vexation. We have talked about this many a time. What is the process again? First the mind has to expect something, and then you have to present the object that it expects, and then it is relieved from that vexation, and then it experiences pleasure. Yes? Okay. Now let's take the example where you eat a piece of chocolate. So chocolate lovers, when you have a piece of chocolate and you put it in your mouth and you take a bite, you feel happy. You enjoy that. That is pleasure. You experience pleasure because you think at that time that this is the chocolate that I always wanted. In other words, ladies and gentlemen, you think that this is the same chocolate that I want. It's exactly what I want. This is the chocolate that I want. This is the same chocolate that I want. Not similar. Same. Not similar. Same. In this world, you can't have two of the same thing. You can only have similar things. But your mind, when it experiences that taste of chocolate, it only takes delight and pleasure in it because it thinks it is experiencing sameness, not similarity. Sameness is what the mind thinks it's getting. Because if it's similarity, then the mind will say, no, this is not exactly what I wanted. This is not exactly what I wanted. Can we try again? Can we try a different flavor? Can we try a different shop? So that then the mind makes its demands because the mind is not satisfied. What I did before with this experiment, when I hid it from your sight, is the analogy of what ego does. When there's ego, you have this feeling that whatever is in your mind is exactly what's available in the outside world. Because your mind has no understanding of presence, paccuppanna, the mind thinks that what it sees out there is the same as what it wants. Now, this is why we spend a lot of time trying to explain to you that color is not in the object. That it is a creation of the mind. Because when the mind thinks that color is in the object, ladies and gentlemen, and it sees color and thinks that it's in the object, now the mind thinks this is the same as that. That's when the mind is relieved of its vexation. But there cannot be two things that are the same. Because sameness is not a concept that can exist in this world. And why is that? Just like when we lit the flame earlier, and I asked you, is that the same flame? 2 seconds later, 3 seconds later, 1 second later, is that the same flame? What is the answer? Is it the same flame? It's not. Why do you say it's not the same flame? Because you know that flames don't exist in presence. They exist in presence. Meaning a flame is always born anew. Isn't it? Paccuppanna. A flame is always paccuppanna. So what are the causes for a flame? It's the same as what it is for a fire. So you need temperature, you need fuel, and you need oxygen, right? So this flame lit up right now, not because the fire from this transferred to that. When you were younger, you might have thought that. This is the fire from this that transferred to that. But then you studied science. And then you learned that that's not how fire is formed. There's fuel there, there's oxygen there, and there's temperature there. In fact, the only thing that this did was what? Increase the temperature. Or did I give oxygen with this? So if you have a dying patient, what must you do then? Suffocating? You don't stick this in their nose, right? Because it has no oxygen. Fuel? What about fuel? Is there no fuel in this? Can I not transfer fuel to the candle? Why not? What is this then? That's fuel for this fire, not fuel for that fire. Yeah? So if anything, all I did with the lighter, actually it's not a lighter, this is actually a heater. That's the thing, we use wrong names. So because you call this a lighter, you think you lit that fire with this light. See? People ask, do you have a light? In some countries, that's what they call it. They don't say, do you have a light? They say, do you have a light? Right? So people think that this is the light, and then you transfer this flame across. Actually, this fuel is for this light. Where is the oxygen coming from? From the oxygen in this environment. You don't need this oxygen over there because there's oxygen there. So where's the fuel coming from? That's the wax. So the only thing that this did was increase the temperature around the wick. But that's not how you feel. That's not how that transaction feels, does it? Can you think really that all this flame is doing is increasing the temperature around this wick? It's quite bizarre for you to start to think in that way. So why is it not lit yet? Because the temperature is not high up enough. Now? Still no. Now? What if I held it up here? Why is this candle not lit yet? The temperature is not right. Is there not enough fuel? Oh, there's plenty of it. Not enough oxygen? How am I alive then? So all this is doing is heating up the environment around it, meaning increasing the temperature. So if we increase the temperature enough around this wick, then you have the three factors that are necessary for a fire to light. Now, how do we blow out this candle? What do I take away? Do I take the flame away? So when I cover my hand and do I suck in the flame? Is that what you saw me do? So now all that flame is in my tummy now. Because I did that about 3 or 4 times, so it's all in my tummy. Did I suck in the flame? Then how did I put out the fire? What did I reduce? Oxygen? A little bit, you could say, because I was blowing carbon dioxide, but my breath, even my exhale breath has oxygen in it. So actually that's not what happened. Is it the fuel that I took away? No, there's still plenty of fuel there. So what I did was reduce the temperature, the exact opposite of what this lighter did. That's why it's wrong to call this a lighter. What should you call it? A heater. Because that's what it does. It increases the temperature. Now, why is it alive now? Because those 3 causes are coming together. When? Now. Presence. So you see, this flame is only alight in presence. Presence of what? Causes. Is it alight in the present? Now, if you say it's alight in the present, then I have to ask you, how come this is not? If flames are alight in the present, if that's when flames are alight, how come this is not? Because this is also in the present. So when I'm going to light this, you say, no, so I'm not the present, it's going to be a light in the future. Then how come this is a light in the present? Do you get me? As I hold this up like this, you tell me, in a moment, this flame is going to be alive, right? We're going to light it up. So then that's the future, isn't it? If that's the future, and the future is when flames are going to be lit, how come this is lit now, in the present? Present. So then I ask you, what about the flame that was here before? That was in the past, Swami answered. So if it's in the past that flames are there, then how come this is there now? And how can I light it up again in the future? So once again, past, present and future has nothing to do with the flame. So what has anything to do with the flame? If it's not the past, present and future? Presence. Presence of what? Causes. Then why is this flame alive right now? Causes are the presence of causes. And now, presence of causes. Now, presence of causes. We can call it now. Actually, what does now mean? It's the presence of causes. But in your mind, you have this ego, which is a sense of existence. And the moment a sense of existence creates in your mind, ladies and gentlemen, you can't help but create the dimension of time. And when the dimension of time is created in your mind, you know what you do? Then you hijack memory and you abuse it. Memory is not here to serve a past for you. That's not what it's for. But your ego makes use of memory to create a past of an event. Because you can't help but think that this is now. This is happening now. This now. Sorry, not this now. You think this is happening this now. Present. Recall that sense of now again for a moment. The one I asked you to do earlier. Bring on that sense of now. You got it again, right? Now. Where are we? Now. When are you hearing this voice? Now. Right? What time are you breathing? Now. You're alive? Now. See? That sense of now, it's a creation, it's a fabrication of ego, it's a fabrication of ignorance, it's a fabrication of attachment and ignorance working together. That does not exist. It certainly does not exist in the mind of an arahant. Which is what brought me to that interesting point I started to talk about, and then I started digressing. We'll come back to that again. This sense of present, now I'm going this way, this sense of now is also a product of presence. It is in the presence of ego do you experience a present. I'll repeat that. It's in the presence of ego, ignorance, attachment, existence therefore, right? And therefore a dimension to exist in. It is in the presence you create a present. That is why you feel that what's happening is happening now. Actually, things are not happening now. Things are happening in the presence of causes. But you can't shake that feeling that things are happening now. That's why when you want something, you want it when? Now. You can't wait for the future, right? That's because you want things to happen now. Meaning you believe in the existence of a now. You feel that now exists. So if now exists and I want something, I want it now. I want it now, not tomorrow, not the day after, not another week. I want it now. Because you believe in the existence of a now. Actually, now doesn't exist. But you can't stop yourself from demanding things now. And the whole world has been built around that. Why has technology become such a close friend of ours? Such a close ally? Because technology has helped us to bring things to us when? Now. Because the mind wants things now. Because now exists only in the mind. Can you think of a now without before and after? I dare you. Just think about the existence of now, but no before and no after. Can you try that for a second? Try and convince yourself that there is only now, there is no before, there is no after. Can you do that? It's not possible. Because what is after? Nows that were. What is before? Oh, sorry. What is after is nows that were. Before? Nows to be. That's before. And nows here, that is what you call present. Your ego does that. But don't take just my word for it. Don't think, okay, Swami Vivekananda says ego does it, so it must be ego that does it. No. You need to understand why I say that it is ego that does that. Otherwise, you have not captured what ego does to you. When I say it is ego that does that, you need to understand that the whole premise of this temporal existence comes from, the necessity for it comes from your ego. Because ego is your sense of existence, ladies and gentlemen. Haven't we drawn chittas before? See, this is a chitta. Okay? You know now from our discussions from the past that a chitta comes into existence when you have rupa, vedana, sanya, sankhara and vijnana, right? This is a process, this is a representation of that process. I have an interesting question for you. How long does this take? How long is a chitta? So this is the birth of a chitta, the existence of a chitta, and the death of a chitta. Just like the candle, right? So what Swaminathan is suggesting is, you don't exist like for 80 years, but you exist in a chitta. But then 80 years is just lots and lots and lots and lots of these. That can't be right. See, again, your sense of ego forces you to think that what I'm trying to explain to you is something that is valid. You can't, see, I don't have to even draw that. It's already in your mind. This axis, this time axis is already in your mind. I don't even have to draw it. Actually, this is wrong, ladies and gentlemen. It is not on the time axis that you have this. It's on the presence axis. This part of the chitta, take this part of the chitta. It doesn't matter what part that is. That part of the chitta is only available because there are causes that present themselves. So this part of the chitta is not in the present. It's in the presence of causes. Then what about this part? Again, in the presence. This part? Presence. What about this part? Again, presence. Then you might say, well, Swaminathan, didn't this part come before this part and this part come before this part comes after this part? You could stitch it all up and say that one happened before the other. I'm not denying the existence of time as a reference. You can, of course, tell things apart depending on when it happened on the clock. Right? So we can talk about this existence or this presence came up before this presence. That's okay. I'm not talking about that, ladies and gentlemen. I'm talking about your sense of time. I'm talking about your emotional connection to time. Even your sense of time is also a creation of causes that are present. Present. Not the top present, the bottom present. So, when we say you are just a chitta, that doesn't mean that you live as long as a chitta does. I don't mean that you live as long as a chitta does. How long do you live? Now, in the Abhidharma, it says that if a chitta arises, it will most certainly live until it has completed its course. So you won't have a chitta that terminates halfway. Right? So even if this is your Chuti chitta, which is the last chitta you're going to have in this lifetime, it'll only come about if there's enough energy for it to go the full cycle. Right? You won't have this. Right? Battery's dead. You won't have that. If a chitta arises, it will run the full circle. So then one could ask the question, well, if that takes, let's say, let's assume 1 millisecond. This is just hypothetical, right? One chitta does not take 1 millisecond. But let's just say 1 millisecond is how long a chitta lasts. You could ask the question, so don't we exist in this 1 millisecond? We, you and I, we all. Don't we exist in this 1 millisecond? If we are just a chitta, doesn't this chitta exist in the 1 millisecond? See, again, folks, you ask me that question because you think a chitta is one entity. The chitta is also not an entity. A chitta is not one big fat thing. What's going on, if you went inside a chitta, are mere manifestations of presence. So then you might ask, okay, so it must be a smaller time duration than a millisecond. No, that's not what I mean. I don't mean that, we're not trying to find the shortest unit of time here. Your mind will try and push you in that direction because you already think time exists, right? So there's no debate about that. Time exists. What is the smallest unit of time? Your mind will be asking you that question right now. So if Swami Namaste says we don't live for 80 years, then surely we live in one chitta. How long is the duration of a chitta, Swami Namaste? That's what you want to find the answer to now. Because you want to know how long you actually live. You're the actual you. How long are you alive? Again, wrong question. Because if 80 years doesn't exist, then 80 days doesn't exist. Right? 80 months doesn't exist. 80 weeks doesn't exist. Or don't exist. 80 hours don't exist. 80 milliseconds certainly don't exist. So if 80 milliseconds don't exist, then 1 second doesn't exist either. And neither does 1 millisecond. Not 1 femtosecond, not 1 attosecond or whatever seconds you have. They don't exist. These are all fabrications of the mind when we want to stitch things together and relate a story. Things don't happen in relation to time. In fact, they don't even happen in relation to each other. Things just happen in presence. But because we want to tell a story, we like to relate a story, because stories are who we are. What are you if not a story? Do you have an answer to that question? What are you if not a story? Take away your story, what are you now? Nothing. I was born in 1997, or 1987, 1967, 1957. Any more than that? Right? I was born in this year. I grew up in this family. Then I was in this neighborhood. My friends did this, my parents did this, my brother did that, my sister did this. Then I grew up, I went to school, I got my education. Right? I then got married, I found myself a job, I started a family, I bought a car, I bought a house. Right? I did this, I did that, I traveled the world. Right? I went and did this, I went on adventures, I made some friends. I partied, I danced, I sang, I did all these things. Right? I swam across the oceans. Right? I went up the Himalayas. Right? All of these things are you. Aren't you the collection of all these little events that have happened in your life? Take away the story, what are you? Aren't you just a story? So take away the story, what are you then? Shall I tell you what you are? Ditte dittamanta. That's what you are. That's what you are. Take away the story. Sight is merely sight. That is what the Buddha says. Who got that preaching? Rajagiriya. The Buddha's contemporary, and he wanted to find the truth. He heard that there was this great man called the Buddha. And by that point he had perfected his perfections, paramita, and he was very ripe for the plucking. Came to the Buddha was going on alms. And Rajagiriya says, "Sir, I want to listen to the truth. It is said that you are the great seer, the all-knowing one. Can you please redeem me?" And the Buddha says, "Rajagiriya, I'm going on alms round now. Why don't you come back later when I'm done?" And then Rajagiriya says, "But sir, I don't trust my life. I want it now, and I want it now. Please, have mercy on me." So then the Buddha looked into his future. He realized that soon after he listens to the Dhamma, he's going to be struck by a bull. And then he's going to fall dead. So, having taken mercy on him, the Buddha stopped going on alms round and he preached a very short sermon. Probably the shortest of all sermons that had ever been preached. So that is why Rajagiriya went on to become the foremost among those who are quick to understand the Dhamma. You are the second foremost, aren't you? All the Buddha said was that, Rajagiriya, ditte dittamanta. See how much I'm struggling to get this concept across to you. You think the Buddha carried a whiteboard around with him? That's why people who were born in the era of the Buddha had so much merit, ladies and gentlemen. That's why I say, don't Don't underestimate the value of merit. Don't underestimate the value of merit. They were bubbling with merit. Just ready, just like a flower waiting to blossom, just waiting for a ray of sunlight. And that's what happened when he met the Buddha. Ditte ditta matta. Meaning there is no story, Rajagiriya. These events are merely events in presence. But when you deny that, when you want a story, when you want existence, let me repeat that. When you want existence, now they can't be merely discrete events, can they? When you go home, take a storybook, right? Maybe an old storybook that you might have lying around somewhere. Okay? And then randomly turn to a page and read one line. And then again randomly turn to another page and read another line. Then randomly turn the pages back and read another line. See whether you're going to enjoy that. Is that going to be fun? Why is it not fun? What is not there? A story is not there. But aren't there discrete events? Yes. So he'll say, he fell off a tree. That itself is also a story. Right? Then he says, mother called Tom. That's also a story, but you can't see the connection between these two things. And then another page will say, he went home. So he fell off a tree, he went home, mother called him. You can't see a connection between these three things. Now what you want is a story. So then you try and piece all these things together in such a way that it relates a story. Now what if I said it like this? Mother called him. He didn't want to listen. He went home. And then he climbed up a tree and he fell. Okay, that makes sense. That is what happens when you don't listen to your mother. See, that's the moral of the story. Why do you need a story? Why does your mind always seek a story? Because you are one. Without the story, you are none. That's why I asked you to come and become nuns. But you want to be ones, not nuns. That's the problem. Future Anagarikas, I speak to you. We ask you to come and become nuns. You want to be ones. That's the problem. Because you are a story, you always want to see a story. So even the chitta becomes a story to you. Which is why, even after I've explained all this about Anicca Dukkha Anatta and Paccuppanna, you come and ask me, Swaminatha, so what is the shortest duration of my existence? Well, the answer is, no, you don't exist. This is just chitta. The chitta does not have an existence. It has no story. But why do we call this a chitta? We call it a chitta, ladies and gentlemen, because there are a series of events. These are all discrete moments. Each moment is as discrete as the next. Each moment is as discrete as the next, and they're independent to the next. This is not here because this is here. This is here because this is here. There are causes that keep it there. In other words, this flame is not a light now because it was a light 2 seconds ago. Don't you agree? This flame is not a light now because it was a light a moment ago. How do I prove that to you? This flame is not a light now because it was a light a moment ago. How can I prove this to you? That's how. If a flame is a light because it was a light a moment ago, how come it's blown out now? Because a moment ago, what was it? A light. Then now also it should be what? A light. So why is it not then? Well, there you go, because now the causes have ceased to exist. Then it's not a light because it was a light a moment ago, right? Then why is it not a light now? Because it wasn't a light a moment ago? Then? Because the causes aren't there. At which moment? At this moment. And now? At this moment. And now? At this moment. So when it was a light, at that moment, and then at that moment, and then at that moment. So all there exists was what? Presence. Presence of causes manifested as results. That is the principle of cause and effect. That is the principle of cause and effect, ladies and gentlemen. See, that's why you can't talk about impermanence as the reality of all existence. Because when you talk about impermanence, you're trying to relate a story. See, now you can say that this flame was impermanent because Swami Nibbāna was able to blow it out. On that basis, you say that the flame was impermanent, meaning a flame existed to be blown out. But that's not true. So, if that is so, then the blown out flame is also impermanent, isn't it? Because what am I going to do now, though? I'm going to bring back the blown out flame. Am I? So the blown out flame is also impermanent. Otherwise, did impermanence vanish all of a sudden? The concept of impermanence, the characteristic of impermanence, okay? So they say that it's there all the time, right? It's timeless, it's always there. So then when the flame vanishes, what happens to impermanence? It vanishes along with it. I mean, that must be true then. Otherwise, you must agree with me that it is the blown out flame that I'm going to bring back to light again. But you don't agree with me on that. This flame is impermanent. The flame is impermanent. How do we know? Impermanent. What about the blown out flame? That's also impermanent, isn't it? That's how I can bring it back again. See, it makes no sense. So when I light this up again, is that the blown out flame I bring back again? Well, you know the answer to that question. That's why impermanence is not the angle through which you need to understand the world. Presence. That's what anicca means. Presence. Presence is what there is. There cannot be anything else other than presence. Presence of causes manifests as an effect. When those causes cease to exist, not on time, not over a period of time, right? Get that out of your heads. Not when they cease to exist over a period of time. That's not what I mean. Because nothing ceases to exist over a period of time, ladies and gentlemen. Does it? Do things cease to exist over a period of time? So when a vehicle comes to a stop, does that come to a stop over a period of time? Does it not seem like that? So here's a vehicle, it's going fast. Did it not come to a stop over a period of time? No, but we like to tell a story. It has stopped because right now there are no causes. A moment before that, it had not come to a stop. It was in motion because there were causes. Do you think the vehicle knew that it was going to stop the next moment? 1 second before this vehicle came to a complete halt, do you think the vehicle knew that it was going to come to a halt? Just 1 second before that? Let's assume that it was coming at a high speed, but then it slowed down a lot, and now it was almost on the verge of coming to a halt. Do you think the vehicle knew that it was coming to a halt? The tires? The engine? No. There is no story. There is no story to tell about a vehicle coming to a stop. So it was coming at a high speed and then it bent around the corner and then it came to a stop. No such story was there. Anything that happened only happened in the presence of causes. These were all individual discrete manifestations. Just like you. Just like you. You are merely manifestation of causes. A manifestation of causes. But you all have a story. It is through your stories you weave yourselves into society. It is through your stories you have woven yourself into your families. See, in your stories you have a husband, you have a wife, you have parents, you have children, you have siblings, you have friends and colleagues. These are all stories. Otherwise, you tell me, here's a chitta, okay? What are you? Ladies, what are you? Achitta. Gents, what are you? Achitta. Is this husband and wife? What is so husbandly about this? Ladies, what are you? Achitta. Gents, in this moment, what are you? Achitta, right? Okay, so what? So, but then you sit together and now you say, this is my husband, this is my wife. What is so husbandy about this? It's a chitta. What is so wifey about this? Huh? Okay, you are sat with your children. Okay, what is so mummy about this? What is so motherly about this? What is childish about this? These are just chittas. But here's what you can do. Put in ignorance. Give it a slap behind the head. Make it go crazy. Now it has ignorance. And out of ignorance comes, so ignorance is what? I exist. That is ignorance. The notion of existence is ignorance. Right? And now you have, with ignorance, the attachment for it. With attachment comes vexation for it. And out of vexation, now there comes relief from vexation, which is creation, fabrication, and a fantasy of existence. Now you begin to exist. When you begin to exist, now this becomes not a chitta anymore, now it's a man. And this is not a chitta anymore, now it's a woman. Because you look at the body and you judge that I am what this body is. And then you don't stop there. You take on all the drushti that society has given you and you tell yourself, well, if I'm a man, I should be with a woman. If I'm a woman, I should be with a man. And then you study what are the legal constructs that allows us to do that. And then you say, well, then for that to be the case, we have to get married. Then you become husband and you become wife. This is how I went through that. I can tell you with absolute confidence that when I got married, I was a crazy man. Don't you agree? I'm asking about me. Not you. Sorry. Not you, I'm just asking about me. I was a crazy man. Because I wanted to get married. Because I thought I was a man. I couldn't stop at me being a chitta. Because I wanted a story. So I wound myself up a story. And then I lived that story. And in this story, here's what else happens. Everything that comes close to you goes away. Then there comes a point where she dies. Meaning, there's the body, but no chitta arises. You go, hey, say something. Call me baby. Call me babes. Come on, say something. Hold my hand. Make my tea at least. But no response. Because all there is now, mass. Just stuff. Stuff, that's all there is, stuff. So if that is all there is then, what is there now? Now there's a wife. When she's dead, that's just stuff. I don't mind you all living as husbands and wives and brothers and sisters and families and right. Okay, I have nothing against that. I hope you know that. I have nothing against that. Okay, I wish you well and I give you my blessings. But the problem is this: you live a lie. Because of this, you suffer. That's the only problem. If you can live a married life, a happy married life, if you can truly live a happy married life, I won't speak a word. But you know that that is only a fairy tale. Happy married lives don't exist. One person put your hand up and say, ever since I got married, Swaminathan, I always lived happily. It was happily ever after, just like they say in the fairy tales. Happily ever after. You know it's not true. And it's not the husband's fault, it's not the wife's fault, it's no one's fault. it's ignorance's fault. The fault was with you for not learning this when you should have. The fault was not associating with noble ones when you should have. That was the fault. It's not the husband's fault, neither was it the wife's fault. Let's be honest, no one wants to make you suffer. They suffer because they suffer, that's it. And they just want to come out of their vexation. You don't like what they do. That's not their fault. She wants to sleep in, you want to go out. And then you ask her, why can't you just do something to make me happy for once? No, well, she's suffering right now because she wants to stay at home. She's tired. She doesn't want to go. She's not intentionally wanting to make you unhappy or sad or frustrate you or disappoint you. That's just her mind. It's vexed. But you don't see it that way because you also want something out of it. So you make your demands. Those demands are not met by the other person. They're not reciprocated. Therefore, now you have a fight. Disagreements, arguments, altercations, and ultimately divorce. Because all this dream that you had, like she will always do what I want and I will always do what she wants, and those promises that you make, all those promises are false promises. Not because you necessarily know that you're going to make false promises. You don't know that. It just happens. Because the mind's vex. That's because of your lack of understanding of the truth. That's why the day you can come to your senses, remember that you are just a chitta. And remember, a chitta is not like one whole thing. Okay, we call this a chitta because all there are discrete manifestations of things that are presence. Because there are causes. These are the mere manifestations. And then what we do is, we stitch them all together. And we call that a chitta. That's what it is. That's what it is. We like to frame things. Because there are chittas before this, there are chittas after this. What we do is we just frame. We put a frame around something and we give it definition. That's what you do. Whenever we name objects, that's when we frame things. We have a start and an end, a border. That's how you have named all these things, isn't it? Where does one thing stop and another thing start? What's the beginning, what's the end? It depends on the observer. Wherever you want to draw that border, you draw the border and then you draw another border, and then once you have enough borders where it is now separate from the other object, now you give it a name. Otherwise, what is the horizon? What is the horizon? Does it actually exist? But that's a border. That border doesn't really exist, does it? If you keep traveling, can you meet the horizon? Can you see the horizon? Can you touch the horizon? No. But that's what your mind does. You see the sky ends somewhere, and the sea, the ocean starts somewhere, and then where those two things meet, you say that's the horizon. Does that exist for real? No, that's your border. How did you manage to draw that border? There was some difference in the way you perceived it. There was a color difference. Then you said that's the border. And so now you've given it a name. But horizons don't exist in nature. Isn't a horizon just a dream? And in the same way, there's no difference between any of you. There's no start or end. Between these two ladies, there's energy. So what are the two ladies then? What are you, madam? Energy. And madam? Energy. What's in between the two of them? Energy. So why do we draw a border and say this is one kind of energy, that's another kind of energy, and then we give it names? Why should we name energy like that? We name them for convenience, that's okay. But if we believe that this energy is specifically this energy and nothing else, that's wrong. But when the mind sees it that way, now the mind begins to deal with things as entities. And that's what has happened with every one of you. That is what has happened to all minds. When we say the mind is ignorant, ladies and gentlemen, we begin to see the world as entities. So these are the truths that you have to open your eyes to. I will talk about this example again another time, because I don't think I did it justice. But it's quite a deep concept. It's only deep in the fact that you've not seen it before. Anything's only deep until you get there, right? How deep is the ocean? When you're there? When you're at the bottom of the ocean, how deep is the ocean? That's exactly it. Things are only deep until you get there. Things are only far away until you get there. How far is the gate from here? See, from here it's far. But once you're at the gate, how far is the gate? From the gate? Exactly. So this is only deep because you're yet to experience it. You're yet to comprehend it. And that will happen. So I'll draw on this example again another time. But the idea is that, see, try and think about this when you live the rest of the week. And that is, whenever you feel a story in your mind, such as the one we talked about. Now, when we leave this room, you'll be switching off the lights, won't you? At the end of this sermon, you'll feel like a sermon has come to an end, won't you? So it started at around 8, and then it will stop around whatever time. Then you say, that is how long the sermon went on for. Again, you have created a story. Catch those stories. Don't be the storyteller. Be the story analyzer. And rip out the story. And just look at presence. In each instance of that story, all there was, ladies and gentlemen, believe you me, was presence. Manifestations due to presence. That was all there was. But you stitched them all together and you made it a story. Once you become a storyteller, you are also part of that. You become a role player in that. Everyone else becomes a player in that story, a character in that story. And now that's it. You're lost. Then you want something to happen to some people. You don't want other things to happen to other people. Because now it's a drama now. You've made that drama out of your lives. I can only apologize because there are some things I want to get across and I'm really struggling here. Language is not helping me either. Because some of these concepts, I wish I could just think it and you could understand. It's very difficult to get some of these concepts across through using words. That's why we make this effort to bring in objects and props and things like that to help you understand. But I think perhaps all of you have not understand all of this. Maybe there's one person who has. But maybe most of you will have understood some of it. And that's also good. But if you can do just this one thing over the course of next week, when you see a story, try and rip it apart, rip it up, and just see individual manifestations due to causes. That will be Pachuppanna, a moment of Pachuppanna contemplation. Those moments. Whenever you see a story, you're out of Pachuppanna. You're out of Satara Satipatthana. Now you are in the Mara's realm. Only when you live in the Pachuppanna contemplation are you in the Buddha's realm. Meaning that is the only way that you can get to Nibbana. But of course, all of this effort is to try to get the concept across to you first. Right? But whatever you have managed to get on board today, try and live that. Remember, Sunata Dhahareta Charata Dhamme. You've got to practice this. I'm not asking you to practice anything you haven't understood, because that would make no sense. Whatever you have understood from today's talk, practice that. Next week we'll continue from there on. We'll go back to some of these examples. I'll bring in more examples, more props if necessary. Right? We'll bring the whole town here if it's necessary for you to understand what you need to understand. Right? But do make sure that you are present. Now, that you are present next week as well, so that we can continue this discussion, because you would have now started the engine, but I want to make sure that you can run on your own. And that will take a few sessions. So give yourself the advantage of your presence here. Before I conclude, there's a short video I want to show you. This video is part 2 from a video that I showed you a couple of weeks ago. So when 2 of our Swami Nuhanses, when traveling the world, taking these truths, who do these truths belong to? Your wife belongs to you, but these truths belong to? Huh? Exactly, right? The truth belongs to everybody. So the Swami Nuhanses did some magnificent work traveling around and sharing the Dhamma. So this is the second half of that video. They've returned today, of course. One of the Swami Nuhanses is with us. I want you to watch this video so you can rejoice in what you have all collectively made possible. And then, before we conclude, I will invite him to spare a few minutes just to talk to you, to share with you what his first-hand experience was when he went traveling around the world, to Korea and to Australia, New Zealand, Malaysia, Singapore, these countries, and what he saw, what he experienced. And perhaps he can give a contrast as to what was there and what you have here. And maybe make an invitation to you if he feels that there is something that you can do because you have the Dhamma with you. Shall we? So now you've heard it straight from his mouth. I was going to say the horse's mouth, but that wouldn't be right. So he's been there, he's done that, he's seen what it's like. And I resonate with his ask. Join this army, ladies and gentlemen, if you can. This is not an appeal on our behalf. The world needs us. Us means not me, not Mahindra. Messengers of the truth. You can all play your part. You're all messengers. In your own social circles, you are a messenger. When you sit down with your family around the dinner table, now you can question whether color is in the food and taste is in the food, smell is in the food. When you do that, you're a messenger of the Buddha. You're an angel from above. That's what you are. Very few people have understood this reality, this truth. And you rank amongst them. If you got it from those who are prepared to share it with you, then it is your duty to share it with others who are waiting until they come face to face with you. Don't underestimate the power that you wield. You are not just a mere human being anymore. You are someone who carries the truth of the Buddha, his message, his wisdom. So be a part of this as much as you can. If you can join us and come into this armor, then do so. Because then the world opens up a lot more. People are prepared to listen to you. Then all you need then is a platform. But if you can't go that far, then be a part of the Sivanakpirisa, the fourfold army, the Upasakas and Upasikas, who nourish, who nurture, who support. And it doesn't always have to be monetary. Your blessings, introducing the Dhamma to another person, to another community, to your friends, to your work colleagues. Swami Nuhanses will be traveling again towards the end of the year. So if you know communities, people there, around that part of the world, let them know that the Buddha's messengers are there. And invite them, interest them, encourage them. Your word they will buy before they buy my word. Because they love you. They think highly of you. They respect you. They believe in you. So first they take your word, then they'll take my word. But I can't give them my word first. That's what I mean. Be part of this mission. This is not one man. Not even the Buddha was one man. The Buddha represents this mission. You know the difference it is making to your lives. Right? What we talked about today, as Mahindra says, this is very profound. But it's only deep because you have not gone that depth so far. One day you will talk about these things through your own words. You will be talking to small groups of people, maybe to a bunch of school children, maybe at the workplace around the coffee machine. You can talk about these things in just the same way that I do, maybe even better. That's why we have to learn language. That's why we acquire language skills. That's why I'm learning 1 or 2 languages myself. These Swaminwasis, they are also doing the same. Now, do you have any doubt as to the necessity for a little Britain? That is why we need this. How many people speak Sinhalese? Very few. But to take this message around the world, across continents and across oceans, we have to learn the international language. We have to learn the other European languages. We have to learn the other Asian languages. That's why we learn a total of 17 languages at the monastery. And Little Britain is not just going to be the home for learners of English, because initially you can't have a little Spain and little Germany and little Italy and little everything at the monastery, right? So actually it's going to be a little Europe, where we learn a lot of the European languages, as well as some of the Asian languages. So it'll be a language hub, although we call it Little Britain. And there we'll create young people, young minds who are not just virtuous, who have not just understood the Dhamma, but also has the ammunition to take the Buddhist message across the world. The greatest sacrifice that you can make is come and be part of us. Then you don't have to bring anything. Come empty-handed, because you are the greatest gift. I always tell you, I don't want what you have, I want you. That is the greatest offering that you can make. Give yourself to the sasana. If you can't give yourself to the sasana, then consider giving something you have to the sasana. Let your children have this opportunity. Let those who are addicted to drugs have an opportunity. Let those who are across the country, for 8 long years, people in that country, Fiji, for 8 long years they hadn't seen a Swaminwasis. How long do you have to wait before you see another one? Not even 8 days. Every 7 days you get to see one. At least one. Every 7 days you get to offer alms. That's what I mean, ladies and gentlemen. They're all brothers, they're all our sisters, they're all our family. The whole world is one family. They were just born to different parents. That is the only reason you don't call them brother and sister. That's the only reason. But deep down, we are all just consciousness, aren't we? We all think the same, we all suffer the same, we all feel anger the same, we all feel greed the same, we all feel lust the same, we all worry the same. We all suffer the same, we all die the same. When your mother dies, you cry the same as the person in another part of the world. When their mother cries, they also die. See how common, how similar the two of you are. So much in common. But we have something very special. So let's make use of what we have. First, to save ourselves. That's the number 1 ask. And number 2, be part of this grand mission. You'll be glad that you did. Because when all is said and done, remember, you will not take a single penny of what you have, and not even the thread that is around your body. You will go empty-handed. All that will remain are the merits that you have earned for yourself and the Dhamma that you have learned for yourself. These are the only 2 things you can carry. The only 2 things you can carry. Nothing more. You had your PhDs in your previous life. Where were they? When you were born, you had to start again in this life. You got your masters in your previous life. Where was it? You had to start again. You had a family, you had to start again. You had a wife, you had to start again. You had friends, start again. Business, start again. Education, start again. You had to learn to count again. All you came into this world was with your merits and your demerits. And while you are here, you earn more merits and try and avoid earning demerits. At the same time, you try and understand the Dhamma, so that you can get out of this cycle of being a slave to your own merits and your own demerits. That is when you can reunite with your source. So I resonate Mahindra words. I resonate with Mahindra words. Be a part of this mission. Let's make our existence worth it. Let's make having lived on this planet worth it. You can do it. Start with yourselves. Then grow, expand. Love all as you love yourself. Right, let's conclude the sermon then. You have been given a homework. Please don't forget that. Right? Come out of a story and try and live in the Pachuppanna, presence, not present. Okay. Let us all take a moment then to transfer the merits that we have all acquired. By inviting the Swami Master to deliver the sermon, as well as creating a conducive environment for all to come along and practice, let us take a moment to transfer this message to the bhikkhus and bhikkhunis, upasakas and upasikas, who have since time immemorial protected and preserved the sublime teachings of the Buddha, passed it down through generations of the noble lineage in the form of the Tripitaka, which is thankfully available to us today to study, understand and comprehend the Dhamma. Let us take a moment to transfer these merits to all the monks and nuns resident in your local temples and nunneries, who have always been by your side through thick and thin, come rain or shine. Let us transfer this message to the Mahanayakas, the Anunayakas of all the chapters and all of the members of the Mahasangha present throughout the world who have made it their life's purpose to serve all human beings, one and all, to help them attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Let us also transfer this message to my teacher, Guru Swami Mahanse, as well as all the monks resident at the monastery, and the Anagarikas and Anagarikas attached to the monastery. Let us take a moment to transfer this message to all who make great efforts to disseminate the teachings of the Buddha, be that by translating these talks, sharing them out with others, or inviting others to join them. May they all rejoice in these merits. Let us also transfer this message to our devotees, friends of the monastery, who for the sake of merits continue to sustain the Mahasangha. This includes all of you who provide the Mahasangha with shelter, alms, robes and medicines, as well as pass on their know-how and continue to extend their well-wishes. May they all rejoice in these merits, and by the power of these merits, may they be healed of any physical and mental ailments and overcome any obstacles to their spiritual progress. May they abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble eightfold path, and may they all attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let us also take a moment to transfer this message to our mothers and fathers, brothers and sisters, sons and daughters, grandparents, uncles, aunts, cousins, nephews and nieces, our friends, our acquaintances, our employers and our employees, anyone and everyone who have helped us, supported us and assisted us in any way, shape or form. May they all rejoice in these merits. By the power of these merits, may they also be healed of any physical and mental ailments and overcome any obstacles to their spiritual progress. May they abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble eightfold path, and may they all attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let us also take a moment to transfer this message to the Devas and Brahmans, spirits and demons, primarily the Sakadeva, as well as all the numerous gods and deities who have committed themselves to fulfill and preserve the Sambuddha Sasana. Let us transfer this message to our guardian deities who keep a watchful eye over us and keep us out of harm's way. May they prosper in divine power and wisdom. May they abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble eightfold path, and may they all attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let us also take a moment to transfer this message to those who passed away in our name, our forefathers, our ancestors, reminding ourselves that it is in the blood, sweat and tears today we are able to enjoy the comforts of life as we do. Let us transfer this message to members of the armed forces as well as the police force who sacrifice their lives to protect the peace and harmony of our nation, as well as those who have lost their lives to natural disasters and wars, be their friend or foe. Let us transfer this message to those who lost their lives in natural disasters such as the floods, pandemics, tsunamis and earthquakes and so on, reminding ourselves that in this infinitely long journey of samsara, they will all have been mothers and fathers to us, friends to us, acquaintances to us, and with an abundance of loving kindness and compassion and a sense of gratitude towards all that they have done for us, let us transfer these merits to them. May by the power of these merits, if any of them have been born in the woeful planes, they redeem themselves and be born in the blissful plane. May they abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble eightfold path, and may they all attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. And finally, may by the power and blessings of all the merits we have acquired throughout the day, we be able to witness the advent of many hundreds of thousands of Arahants on this blessed land, and may you and I, and everyone who has helped make this program a success, become an enlightened one in the era of the Gautam Buddha itself and in this very life itself. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. May the blessings of the Noble Triple Gem be with you all. The members of the Mahasangha will transfer their blessings to you. Raga kinnen nidatva Desha ginnen nidatva Moha ginnen nidatva Nibbana parama sukhayan Sukhita taravatva Nibbāna parama sukhayen sukhita taravatma mamada siyalu loka siyalu satvayo Nibbāna parama sukhayen sukhita taravatma Nibbāna parama sukhayen sukhita taravatma Nibbāna parama sukhayen sukhita taravatma Rajagiriya niveva Dveshagiriya niveva Mohagiriya niveva Nivan sapaladeva Nivan sapaladeva Nivan sapaladeva තුනුරුවන්ගේ සුවිසි අනන්ත මහා ගුණ බැලින් සියලු ලෝක සියලු සත්වයන්ම නිබ්බාන පරම සුඛයෙන් සුගතිතර වෙත්වා සාදු සාදු සාදු